Welcome to the Orderly Podcast. This is a space where we examine our everyday lives and how Jesus meets us here, helping us bring more order and joy into the way that we live. I'm your host, Becky Crawley, and I'm really glad that you're here today. Today, we are beginning a brand new series on friendship. And I want to start out this episode by sharing a story. I was on Instagram just scrolling through, and a woman that I follow on Instagram for recipes and inspiration, she's a homesteader in Canada, posted something really personal on her podcast. She posted that she had really no friends, that in person in her life, she had become more settled in the fact that her family and her lifestyle of her kids and her husband and other family members were really her community, but that she didn't really feel like she had a community outside of that, that she had tried a few times with friends and had really never experienced the kind of friendship or community that she really wanted to. And this stood out to me and kind of surprised me because she has 432,000 followers on Instagram. And this is such a good representation of what our society looks like today. We are the most connected and loneliest society that has ever existed. And I stopped right there and I said a prayer for her. I asked Jesus right off the bat, I said, would you please send this dear girl a real friend? Someone who is going to model Jesus to her, that's going to believe in her when she's having a hard time believing in herself, who will lift her up when she's feeling down. Because I have experienced that kind of friendship in my life. And I really think that everyone deserves that kind of friendship, which is why I am starting this series today on friendship. And I want for you, listener, to have real, authentic, Jesus loving friends in your life. And that is not an easy task. And as we go into this episode, I want to start off and talk to you about a conversation that I had with my best friend, Stephanie Hilberry. As many of you know, I mentioned on my last episode that Steph was taking a bit of a sabbatical right now, that she was going to come back, hopefully at some point. And I was very hopeful of that as well, because doing this podcast with her and podcasting with her has been one of the greatest joys of my life. So I had a chance to catch up with her, and I said, hey, I've been producing some orderly podcast episodes without you. And she said, I know, I noticed, and I'm just so proud of you. And I immediately just said, well, I'm hoping that you're going to come back soon. I don't want to pressure you, but I miss the collaboration. I miss our back and forth and all the heart sharing that we do, the trust that it takes to build a podcast together. I just think it makes it better. And her response really surprised me. It also reminded me of the kind of friend that Steph really is to me. She said that she had been listening to the recent episodes and that she really believed that Orderly should be hosted by me. And came back and told her how much I genuinely preferred the co hosting style, that I really loved the dialogue and the conversation and sharing this space with her. And she reminded me gently of something that I had forgotten about. When I first started into podcasting, it was originally a work assignment in publishing. I immediately put myself behind the scenes. I would produce the podcast, I would manage the content, but I wouldn't be on the mic. And only a few weeks into that process, Steph encouraged me to step out from behind the curtain. She told me that the ideas that were shaping into the podcast, it was called They Say at the time, were really coming from my heart. And that if that was true, then the listener needed to hear them directly from me. So I reluctantly agreed to just co host one episode. And that one yes turned into over a decade of podcasting. In fact, this January, I just celebrated 10 years behind the mic on Paying Ridiculous Attention to Jesus podcast, co hosted with Rick Lawrence, which is a monumental thing. And, starting podcasting, it really moved me from the safety of being behind the scenes into the forefront. And it didn't just start with podcasting, it started happening in every area of my life. In fact, when I started coaching people to start their own podcasts, I think 8 years ago, that's what I would tell people. This is going to change your life. It's going to interact in every area of your life. You're going to start stepping out into the forefront of every area of your life. And it's been true over and over again. Steph also reminded me that while I had grown a lot, I had also preferred to stay comfortably in the co-host seat for many years. I'm the co-host of Paying Ridiculous Attention to Jesus. I have co-hosted other podcasts, and when I decided that I was going to start this podcast, I immediately wanted to be a co-host. And she told me that she would love to be a regular guest on the show, but with me in the hot seat, right where I belong. And listener, I just have to tell you, I couldn't have started off with a better analogy of what a great friendship looks like, because that's what she was in that conversation. She didn't placate me and give me what I wanted. She knew what my heart needed. And she also wanted to see me come out of my comfort zone. And she was willing to give me a little bit of a push to do it. And it takes a really great friend to be able to do that in a really genuine way. So, listener, I want to start off this series and I want to talk about what real friends do. They support you. They work to see your dreams come true. They push you out of your comfort zone. They remind you of your calling on your life, especially when you're feeling afraid to step into it fully. And that is why we're going to start here. We're kicking off a series on friendship. There's going to be multiple episodes where I'm going to be deep diving into behind the scenes with Jesus and how he treated his own friends and what are the aspects that he did that we can model to our friends today. Friendship really does matter. Friendship is one of the most formative parts of our lives. My son is 4 years old, and I'm already watching him shape into ways that I'm already watching his friendship shape into ways that I simply can't shape him. Um, Potty training stalled out until he saw all of his friends doing it, and suddenly he jumped from 10% to 90%. Riding his little Strider bike was like inching along on the sidewalk while I was pushing him to keep going until suddenly he was surrounded by a pack of kids zooming around on their Strider bikes. And all of a sudden, he was able to do it. Conflict resolution became real to him when he had to talk things out with a friend, say he was sorry, and ask for their forgiveness. And that was a huge teachable moment that I really couldn't teach him the right way, because friendship teaches us through things that instruction never can. And yet, as we get older, meaningful friendships often become harder to find. Moving around, I moved around a lot. I went to a new school every single year in elementary school until fifth grade. Fifth and sixth grade were the only 2 years that I stayed at the same school. I have moved across the country multiple times for different jobs and opportunities. And, even moving to where I am now in my late 30s when I had no kids was a hugely monumental task. Finding people who are willing to dip beneath the surface with you takes a lot of time and a lot of trust. At the same time, if you stay in the same place your whole life, maybe you grew up with the same people since you were in diapers, that can be challenging too. When you're surrounded by people who've known you forever, it can make you feel stuck. We can feel like we can't fully be who we've grown into because others still relate to the old version of us. And I think this is especially true if you move away for a while and then you come back home. They don't, the person that they know doesn't really exist. They have to get to know a new person. And sometimes it's easier to just go back and Be the old person that they all expect you to be. And then there's technology. We're going to talk about technology. We have to. We live in the age where we do relationships online. And even though we're more connected than ever, somehow we're more lonely than ever. Friendship also has a physical and emotional impact on us. Psychologists say that friendship reduces loneliness and isolation, that it provides perspective and stress relief. In fact, I read that when you're around a really good friend having a conversation, that it immediately lowers your blood pressure. It encourages healthy habits and spiritual growth. It brings joy through shared laughter and experience. It promotes heart health and lowers your blood pressure. It strengthens your immunity by reducing stress. It encourages healthier lifestyle choices, and it can increase your longevity and your overall quality of life. God knew what he was doing when he designed us for relationships, not just with him, but with each other. Jesus didn't treat friendship as casual or optional either. He redefined it. He said, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you." He said, "Greater love has no one than this, than that someone laid down his life for his friends." And then this one still gets me. He said, "I no longer call you servants. I have called you friends." Friendship with Jesus and with each other is about love. It's about sacrifice. It's about shared life and obedience that's rooted in trust. Community, unity, forgiveness, and bearing one another's burdens weren't afterthoughts. They were always God's design for us. And it's modeled all throughout the Old Testament. If you look at what the law and the commandments actually represented, they were about right relationship with him and right relationship with each other. That if we kept these commandments, we could also keep that relationship strong. So, over the last few years, I've been thinking deeply about what makes a great friend, mostly because I'm trying to model that to my kids now. I want them to have great friendships. I want them to have lifelong friendships. I want them to have friendships that encourage them to do more, to live out their dreams, that push them in the right way. And part of that is I have to model that to them. And so for the last year, I've really been focusing on what does friendship look like in my life? And how am I modeling that to my kids today? I want my kids to experience friendships that go deep and wide. I want them to experience friends who see them straight to their heart, even when they mess up. I want them to have friends who embolden them towards their calling, friends who can grow with them through maturity and change. And most importantly, friends who share the calling to be coworkers in Christ. And listener, I'm here today because I want the same thing for you. And so I hope that you'll just grab a cup of coffee or a hot cup of tea and settle in with me for a few weeks as we really zoom in and pay attention to friendship and what that really looks like. So, as I've sat with friendship over the last year, I've noticed 4 key qualities that Jesus modeled very clearly. And over the next few weeks, we're going to be taking deep dives into each one of these because each of them is their own episode. So, I'm just going to kind of go over them softly today to get them in your mind as we settle in and focus on friendship. Again, this is Orderly Podcast. So it's about ordering our life around Jesus. We do not believe in trying harder to get better. So this isn't a to-do list that I'm adding to your list. I am not asking you to just write these down and then muster up every amount of strength to get better at them. This is about an invitation to intimacy with Jesus and asking him to move through these things with you. And they may require you to actually start doing these things in your relationship with him first, because that's part of building that relationship and deepening that connection with Jesus so that we can deepen the connection with people around us. So the first one is curiosity. This is my favorite one. I think that Jesus was the most curious person on earth. Every encounter that he had with someone was rooted in deep curiosity. He was deeply curious about people. His questions weren't small talk, they were doorways to the heart. He invited Zacchaeus into relationship. He saw Nathanael under the fig tree. He even as a child, he listened and asked questions in the temple. He was a deeply curious person. Curiosity in friendship means that we ask real questions and caring about the answers that we get back. And asking more and more and more questions when we get the answers. It's about lots and lots of questions. And curiosity is also, I believe, the antithesis of comparison. It kills jealousy. It eliminates gossip. Curiosity is a cure for many of the reasons why female relationships often fail. The second one is commitment. I can't tell you how uncommitted we've become in this generation. There is this very flexible mentality, and that flexibility often means just flaking out on people. We say we're going to do something and we don't. We send a last minute text and say we're not coming anymore. And that lack of commitment has made it so that people don't even feel like trying. Why would I schedule a dinner with my girlfriends if all of them are just going to flake out on me at the last minute? Commitment is something that Jesus modeled to us. He never gives up on us. The entire Bible is a book written on about the endless pursuit and commitment that Jesus had to us. It's our story. And he has asked us to be committed to our friends as well. Showing up, keeping our promises, staying consistent builds trust and mirrors his faithfulness. It also helps us to be reliable to the people around us. And when you're reliable, people come back to you all the time. The third one is compassion. Jesus healed, fed, and forgave and stayed present with people. When the woman who is walking through the crowd reached out and touched the edge of his cloak for healing, he turned around out of compassion for her. He wanted not to just heal her, but to heal her heart and also to publicly proclaim her clean amongst a group of people who had treated her unclean for her whole life. He had deep compassion for people. Compassion in friendship looks like grace, support, shared joy, and also shared sorrow. It's a connection that keeps us going back to the well and looking for more in friendship. The last one is confidence. And this is kind of like a double-edged sword here. Confidence means that we create safe spaces for people. And creating safe spaces for people means that we don't talk about them behind their back, that they know that what we say to them in front of their face is the same thing that we say about them behind their back. It means that if someone tells you something, you don't tell someone else, even just as a prayer request or because you're concerned. Confidence means that people know that they can trust you. And it also means that we build confidence with our friends, that we build them up the way that Steph built me up. You provide confidence for them. You are the borrowed belief when they cannot believe in themselves. Jesus knew how to create safe spaces. He knew his disciples fully, and he kept inviting them closer and closer. They felt safe with him. And that is the same way that we should be in our friendships. Confidence means that we protect trust. It means that we listen without judgment and we allow others to be fully themselves. And part of that is being able to see people the way Jesus sees them, seeing straight to their heart instead of trying to pick apart their motives or what they are really trying to say, just really seeing them the way Jesus sees them. And most of the time, the way Jesus sees us is like a child, in the way that he created us before we were burdened by all of the things around us. That is what friends do. So that's where we're going. That is where we're heading. This is my first episode where I'm saying I'm Becky Crawley, and I am the host of the Orderly podcast. And I hope to have more guests on and to continue collaborative conversation. But for now, I'm gonna take my best friend's advice, and I'm going to own my seat here. And over the next few weeks, I hope that you will join us as we take one of these things at a time and really let Jesus lead the conversation about how we love, how we connect, and how we grow in friendship. If this series is resonating with you, I want you and encourage you to stay with me, but also share it with some people. This is about community. It's about building community. It's about saying, let's work on this together. Let's become better friends. And I want you to also just open yourself up to a new kind of relationship with Jesus. This is the kind of friendship he wants with us as well. He wants to be all of these things, but he also wants us to be them to him as well. So as you journey into your week, maybe pause, ask some curious questions of Jesus. Don't just throw up your prayer requests to him. Ask him some questions that maybe are burning on your heart. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next time. I'm Becky Crawley. This is Orderly Podcast. It's a podcast by BeckyCrawley.com. You can subscribe to us on iTunes or Spotify or any of the areas that you like to get your podcast. And we'll see you next week. Bye.